Imagine waking up one morning and finding out that the ground beneath your feet is gone, not flooded, not frozen, just gone, swallowed by sand. That is exactly what was happening to hundreds of villages in northern China. Every single year, a desert was quietly devouring 500,000 acres of farmland land where families had lived, grown food, and built their lives for generations. People packed up what little they had and ran. Scientists tried and failed. The government threw money at the problem and watched it disappear into the sand. For decades, this desert seemed unbeatable. But then something happened that nobody expected. A solution was found, and it did not come from a lab, a government program, or a billion-dollar technology. It came from the most unlikely creature on Earth, a rabbit. Not one rabbit, not 100, not even 1,000. China introduced over 4 million rabbits into one of the deadliest deserts in the world, and what happened next genuinely shocked scientists, the United Nations, and environmentalists across the globe. Today, we are going to tell you that story, and by the end of it, you will never look at a rabbit the same way again. To understand why this story matters, you first need to understand the enemy. The Kubuqi Desert sits in Inner Mongolia in northern China. It stretches across 18,600 square kilometers, an ocean of golden sand dunes that push relentlessly southward, swallowing everything in their path. For centuries, locals called it the Sea of Death, and they meant it literally. No trees, no grass, no water, just endless shifting sand. The desert was not always this bad. Centuries of overgrazing had stripped the land of its vegetation, leaving the soil exposed and unprotected. Once the sand started moving, nothing could stop it. By the mid-20th century, Kubuqi was expanding at a catastrophic rate, consuming 500,000 acres of fertile land every single year. Sandstorms so powerful, they blotted out the sun, would sweep across villages, burying homes and roads overnight. The 740,000 people who lived in and around this desert were among the poorest in China. Many had no choice but to leave the land their families had farmed for generations. The Chinese government knew this was a crisis. Between the 1950s and the 1980s, officials launched program after programs and control stations, tree planting campaigns, government-funded experiments. None of it worked. The desert kept advancing year after year, relentless and unstoppable. By the late 1980s, scientists were beginning to wonder whether the Kubuqi Desert could ever be tamed at all. In 1988, a local man named Wang Wenbiao took over a near-bankrupt salt works sitting right in the middle of the desert. Wang was not a scientist or a government official. He was an entrepreneur, and he was a child of Kubuqi. He'd grown up in these sands. He once said in an interview that his entire childhood was defined by sand. When I ate, I tasted sand. When I went to bed, I slept on sand. When I breathed, I inhaled sand. His dream as a boy was simple: to eat one meal without sand in his food. Now he was a grown man running a failing salt works in the middle of the same desert that had haunted his childhood. And he had a problem. To get his salt to market, his trucks had to travel a 350-kilometer detour around the desert because there was no road cutting through it. The nearest train depot was just 65 kilometers away as the crow flies, but those 65 kilometers were an impassable sea of sand. Wang tried to build a road through the desert. The sand swallowed it. He built it again. The sand swallowed it again. That was the moment Wang made a decision that would change the world. He was not going to fight the sand road by road. He was going to fight the entire desert, and he was going to win. Wang started with an idea that seemed almost childishly simple. He placed dry shrubs in square grid patterns across hundreds of acres of desert. These shrubs acted as windbreaks, slowing down the powerful desert winds and reducing the amount of sand they could carry. Then, inside each square, he planted willow trees. Now, willow trees are remarkable survivors. Their roots grow up to 300 feet underground, pushing deep into the earth in search of water. They can survive in conditions where almost everything else dies. And crucially, their deep root systems lock the sand in place, preventing it from shifting with the wind. People thought Wang had lost his mind. Neighbors laughed at him. "Who plants trees in a desert?" they said. Local officials were skeptical. Even some of his own workers thought the project was doomed. But Wang kept going. For 3 years, the willows grew slowly, stubbornly, quietly. The plan was working, but a new problem was emerging. Willow trees, if you want to use their wood for paper or furniture, need constant pruning. The young side branches have to be cut back so the main trunk can grow thick and strong. In a normal forest, this is straightforward work. In the middle of a desert, with limited workers, brutal heat, and no infrastructure, it was nearly impossible. Wang was spending enormous amounts of money on manual pruning that he could not sustain. The project was at risk of collapsing before it could succeed. And then someone had an idea so strange, it sounded like a joke. What if instead of paying workers to prune the trees, you used rabbits? Not just any rabbits. Wang introduced a specific breed called the Rex rabbit, a creature with fur so incredibly soft and dense that it is compared to the coat of an otter. Rex rabbit fur is used in a high-end luxury fashion and commands premium prices on the global market. But what made Rex rabbits perfect for Kubuqi had nothing to do with their fur. It had everything to do with what they liked to eat. Rex rabbits are naturally drawn to the young, tender branches of willow trees, the exact branches that needed to be pruned. As the rabbits grazed, they were doing the pruning work for free. The willow trunks grew thicker and stronger. The paper industry paid top prices for the high-quality wood. Wang had found a way to make his desert ecosystem pay for itself, but the rabbits were just getting started. As they moved through the willow plantations, their droppings fell into the sand below. Rabbit manure is rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, and organic matter, exactly the nutrients that desert sand completely lacks. Over time, those droppings began to break down into something extraordinary: soil, real fertile soil, capable of holding moisture and supporting plant life. The sand was slowly, grain by grain, becoming farmland. There was one more twist. Rex rabbits eat grass, but their digestive systems cannot break down grass seeds. So every time a rabbit ate grass and passed through the natural cycle, the seeds came out whole and intact, essentially being planted across the desert floor. The rabbits were not just fertilizing the land, they were literally planting it without knowing it, without being trained, just by being rabbits. One animal was simultaneously pruning trees, enriching soil, and sowing seeds, all for free. Wang did not stop at willow trees and rabbits. With the project gaining momentum, he hired 100 bulldozers and began leveling the massive sand dunes, filling craters, flattening the land, and preparing it for large-scale planting. With support from the Chinese government, millions of Rex rabbits were distributed to local families across the region. Every household became a small farm. Every farm produced fur, fertilizer, and food, and slowly, the desert began to retreat. Over the following decade, underground water tables in parts of the project zone rose by up to 2 meters because the growing vegetation reduced evaporation and allowed rainwater to sink into the earth rather than bake away. The data was extraordinary. After 30 years of sustained effort, the United Nations released a report confirming that 6,460 square kilometers of the Kubuqi Desert, roughly 1/3 of the entire desert, had been successfully reclaimed, green, alive, productive. The United Nations named the Kubuqi model a global ecological and economic demonstration zone in 2014. In 2017, Wang Wenbiao was awarded the UN Champions of the Earth Prize, the United Nations' highest environmental honor. Today, over 10,000 people's lives have been transformed. More than 2,000 farms now operate in land that was pure desert just a generation ago. Farmers who once fled the Kubuqi in desperation are now earning average annual incomes of around $9,600. People who ran away from this desert are now becoming wealthy inside it. The Sea of Death had become something else entirely. Rabbits can transform land, but only under control. In Australia, over 200 million rabbits have become a destructive invasive species, damaging crops, ecosystems, and causing massive economic loss. This happened because just 24 rabbits were released into the wild in 1859 without predators or management, leading to uncontrollable population growth. In contrast, China used Rex rabbits in a controlled system within the Kubuqi desert, where they helped restore land by fertilizing soil and supporting vegetation. China later expanded this success by building the massive Junma solar power plant in the desert, generating clean energy, while its panels created shade that helped plants grow. Rabbits continued supporting this ecosystem. Today, the once Sea of Death is a thriving environment with farms, animals, and renewable energy. This model shows that success depends not on the animal, but on human management. The Kubuqi project is now seen as an eco-economic revolution, offering hope against global desertification, affecting nearly half the Earth's land.